Hello, welcome to my project. My name is Mr. Race, and behind me is my good assistant, Mrs. Zent. I am here to talk to you about a certain book called The Brave New World. This is a book that was made in the 1930s by an author known as Aldous Huxley, and now that I say 1930s, I feel old and I was born in 2006. Now remember, as we go through the story, my one theme, and that is, not everything can be perfect. Remember that. The reason I chose this theme along with my assistant was because this honestly made sense to how we live in the real world, and the fact that this book is kind of based off of what our real world could have been, kind of scary. Now, less on the theme, let's move on to some certain characters that you'd be acquainted with as you read the book. Now, I won't go into depth of a lot of the characters, but I'll give you a few examples. We had Fanny, we had Henry, we had the director, we have John the Savage, Linda, Lenina, Mustafa Mond, and Bernard Marx. Now that's just a small assortment of some of the characters in this certain book. Now if you read the book by your own, you can learn all of that stuff, but I'm just going to go through a basis of certain scenes from the book. Also, I mentioned John the Savage. Now out of all the other names, that one kind of sounds different amongst most. More on him later. Now what I'm going to say might sound very gruesome and very wrong in many cases. And I would agree with you, it's 100% wrong nowadays. And you gotta remember that this was written in the 1930s where most people didn't care how things were written or how the world was run. And in some places, this is actually considered a banned book. And in some places, this is known as a banned book. In most places, just like Fahrenheit 451, that was banned for certain reasons as well. Now, when we read the next few chapters, on the surface it seems fine. But there's one that really stuck out, and that was the scene where there were babies. Now, when I say babies, they were normal babies, for one, yes. But these are different babies. These babies didn't come from mother and father, and how a normal baby would come from a mother. There's no mother and father in this book at all, and that's kind of how they live their society and how they live their life. And how they live their life, compared to us, is completely different. They incubate their babies. Now, as I'm saying that, there's also more that goes into the incubation of babies. They also have to discipline these babies, and these babies are disciplined through a few measures where, one, they will tase the baby when they look at certain objects such as really nice flowers, really cute objects, and just colors in general. They will tase the baby to discipline it that these things are not something that they want or they want to see ever. Earlier in this year, we also read a book called The Red Scarf Girl. Now, in that book, that focused on a character called Ji Lee, and that character kind of lived in the same thing our Brave New World is. Now, in both these books, there's what's known as classes, and these classes are kind of range from all kinds of certain things. One of the biggest things with this compared to The Red Scarf Girl is that there's 5 classes compared to the 2. In this book, there is Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, and in The Red Scarf Girl, there was the bourgeoisie and the poor people. Mainly in the book, you'll hear about the alphas, and that's kind of where most people lie in this world, as long as like the director and all the high ends like Mustafa Mond, Bernard Marx. The low level, the epsilons are pretty much the slaves, and they just do honestly what they're there for, and they get paid absolute crap. Now, I tie this into Red Scarf Girl with these two mainly because that's kind of how it was portrayed in Red Scarf Girl with the poor and the rich. So now we move on to one of my favorite characters of the book, and that's John the Savage. I really like John the Savage for the character he plays and actually how he ties in with the book. And once he was introduced, I actually started enjoying the book a lot more. John is one of the main people in this book that actually have a mother and a father. And the people that actually have those live on the reservation called the Savage Reservation, and that is located in New Mexico. And with the Savage Reservation, John lives in a place known as the Savage Reservation, which lies in New Mexico. And this is a place where the technologies of the world state have not been introduced. The savages still give birth, believe in gods, and endure physical pain and emotional suffering. Now, I quote savages in what I just wrote, for the reason mainly that they're not actual savages like we have in the real world that we live in. These savages are people that actually have a family, like a mom and a dad, and those kinds of things. And they're away from the Brave New World or the New Order, or whatever you want to call it. The death of Linda was one of the biggest things in the book that was very different for John and how he changed his character. He started getting to a point where he'd start hurt himself and stuff like that. People were happy that they saw John being himself, to a point where they would eventually start asking him to use certain tools against him. But there was also that slight few in there that would know that this is not okay. And even if you hate yourself, you shouldn't be doing this to yourself, and you should be living your life to the fullest, even if it's corrupt. Now, he would continue doing this throughout time, until one day, I quote from the book. The book ends with the words, "Slowly, very slowly, like two unhurried compass needles, the feet turned towards the right, north, northeast, southeast, south, south, southwest," then it paused. And after a few seconds, turned as unhurriedly back towards the left, south, southwest, southeast. Now, if you don't know what that resembles, I'll just cut it short. That means he hung himself, where the body is swaying with the wind because he can't control any of the muscle in his body. Now, back to the theme. Me and my assistant chose this theme because there is no such thing as a perfect world. And if we lived in a perfect world, then I don't even know if I want to live in this perfect world. Having the struggles of life, but also the challenges of living, along with all the happiness and everything you earn, that's what matters in life mainly to me. And if I just had a perfect world where I could have everything I would ever want, the challenges aren't there, and without a challenge, is it really worth it? Anyways, thanks for listening to me rant. Have a good rest of your day.